Let's go to the Minnesota Timberwolves. One of your teams, and a team that, much like the Chicago Bulls, we talked about in the Central Division, you hate more than anyone else I've ever met. Minnesota Timberwolves, there's a 48.5 at Superbook, the sharpest book on the market. 47.5 is at FanDuel, but that's minus 138, I believe, to the under or to the over.
That's to the over, yeah.
Minus 138 to the over. There's a 49.5 at PointsBet, plus 125 to the over. Circa, notably, the other sharp book is 2 points off of Superbook at 50.5. So you can get a minus 110 at Circa, 50.5 to the under, or a 48.5 to the over, minus 110 at Superbook. So a whole lot of range in this.
Yeah.
Where do you have your quote unquote beloved Minnesota Timberwolves at?
Beloved home team Timberwolves. I'm going to surprise you. I have the regular season Timberwolves as a pretty good team. I have them 10th on offense, 10th on defense. Okay. Top 10, both sides of the ball. That's a pretty good regular season team. That puts them at 46 to 52 wins. That puts me in a spot where I lean over here, but at the number that's heavily juiced, and it's probably just going to be a stay away for me. I have a correlated bet here that we'll get to at the end of the Timberwolves, but I think they're going to be solid. I think you like them slightly more than I do, and then probably look over. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I lean to the over. It's just a real high number. If this was even one lower, it might be a best bet. I lean over, but I can't bet it at 48.5. And look, and that's I can't really expect that given their performance last season. Like, this was a pretty good team last year. And so I can't really expect that number to go down given that they added Rudy Gobert. It was 46 last year. Is Rudy Gobert worth, even though people overrate how much star players are worth to the wins, is Rudy Gobert alone worth 3 wins? That gets difficult for me to say.
I mean, he should be, right? The way that all the advanced metrics all think that Rudy Gobert is a god and like the 5th or 10th best player, you should be a 3 wins better if that guy's on the team.
So we agree this is going to be a top 10 defense. I lean towards this being a top 5 defense. The reason is basically when Rudy Gobert's on the court, they're a top 5 regular season defense. You're not going to find anybody that's criticized Rudy Gobert harder than me. Okay. Well, no, that's not true. You're going to not find anybody that hasn't criticized Rudy Gobert with any sort of respect for him than me. There's people that just think he's a bum. Rudy Gobert's not a bum. He's one of the most impactful defensive players. Great. Like, he's incredible. He's a Hall of Famer for his defense.
Absolutely.
His offense is a mess. And this is where the advanced metrics go in misalignment, is where they start rating him as one of the most impactful offensive players. He's not. He has great rim gravity. That's not enough because you can counter it. And when he has to score on his own, he sucks. He sucks at post-ups. He sucks at small jumpers. He can't space the floor. He doesn't have a floater. He doesn't have a face-up game. He can't do anything on his own. You get him a guard that can lob it to him. He's one of the most impactful offensive players in the league in tandem with that guard. Like, that guard is who's doing the work there. Rudy's jumping and dunking, and that does take skill and positioning and all sorts of things that most players can't do. It just has to be put into context. But defensively in the regular season, Rudy Gobert is an absolute fucking monster. He's just a monster. No one protects the rim at a higher rate. His rebound numbers are absolutely incredible. He is a one-man possession finisher. It is almost impossible for you to have a bad defense with Rudy Gobert on the floor. The Jazz tried with how their perimeter defense, he is playing alongside much better perimeter defense. Part of it was they had good perimeter defenders around Rudy in, say, 2018, and they couldn't score enough. So then they added all the offense, but then the offense, it's like, oh, Bogdanovich played one good series versus LeBron. Bogdanovich is a bad defender. He had one good series versus LeBron. In general, he's a terrible defender. Mike Conley was a really good defender when he was 27. He's much older now. All of their guys went down. D'Angelo Russell, I would say he's a minus defender. He's not amongst my guys that I'm like, oh my God, he's so terrible. He's just not great. Not good.
The numbers think that he's the Trae Young type of terrible. Why do you think that he's not that?
Because I think that in a defense where you can kind of adjust for him, especially, let me put it this way. If you put a rim protector behind him to clean up all of his stuff, he's probably going to be okay. Like, his numbers are probably going to be decent because he's going to have more help behind him. Anthony Edwards, good defender. Uh, the rest of their guys, you talk about, people are gonna be like, what about Cat? Well, Cat's gonna guard power forwards, which is a very different role. And Cat actually, especially when they try and put him in pick and roll, they found last year, if you play Cat at the level, which I've been yelling about for fucking 5 years, he's pretty good. So you just switch the scheme up. If it's a 1-5 with Rudy, you're going to play drop because Rudy's the best drop defender in the history of the league. There are problems with that, but in general, you're going to win more possessions than not in the regular season. In the regular season, you're going to come out ahead. If they go 1-4 with Towns, you're going to blitz, get the ball out of his hands. Rudy recovers on the backside. This is going to be a top 10 defense. It might be a top 5 defense. They're loaded with shooters. They have so much shooting everywhere. They have so much scoring everywhere. I don't think that they lost depth, but they could stagger a little bit more with the guys that they have. Everybody's expecting Anthony Edwards to make a huge leap. I don't think that that's crazy. Kyle Anderson was a sneaky good pickup for them. Eric Pascal was a sneaky good pickup for them. I like Ellaby. I like Minot. I think Austin Rivers was actually kind of, a lot of the advanced numbers for Austin Rivers in Denver last year were really good. Rivers had to start a lot of the time. He's just going to be like one of the backup guards. CJ McLaughlin is good. Like Naz Reid. Chris Finch is an excellent coach. I really like the over here, but I can't play at this number.
Yeah, I want to push back on a bunch of those guys, but I'm not going to, just because that's not the point of this right now. But
that's okay, go ahead.
You like a bunch of the guys just a little more than me. That's all. Like there's no, we're not going to debate what we think about Naz Reid and Ellaby and these guys right now. Just you like a lot of those guys you just mentioned more than me. Bigger picture, I don't love the shooting and spacing on the team. I'm surprised to hear you say that, because we're going to have Gobert obviously is not a spacer. He's a vertical spacer, which is a valuable thing, but obviously not a shooter. Their lineup is going to have a non-shooter at the 3, whether that's like a Jaden McDaniels or maybe that's Kyle Anderson. That's not a shooter. Nah, I don't trust shooting from there. And D'Angelo Russell and Anthony Edwards are mid-range shooters, but I don't trust their 3-point shooting yet. So obviously Towns can shoot. We know that, but I worry a little bit about, I think, the offense being cramped. Here are the questions that I have for the team. And I don't know if you have an answer. I'm happy to hear it. Offensively, does Rudy help? Does he hurt? Like where does he move the needle for them? When Towns is not the center, is he as valuable or is he less valuable because now you got a big dude in there taking up his space a little bit? Is he better because he's away from the hoop now? His rebounding is going to get nerfed because he's not going to be in there. How much does playing Jalen McDaniels a lot more this year? We like him, but he's young and he's inconsistent. How much does that hurt the offense? I think that's going to hurt a little bit. Obviously, we don't know how much the ant leap, that it's in there, it's coming, but I think people are a little too soon, too fast, because we liked him in a movie. I think we're maybe a year or two ahead of the curve. Defensively, I don't know. You've said, and I've heard a lot of people say, well, the Jazz were a train wreck. This team's perimeter defense is a lot better. I don't really think that. The Timberwolves lost Patrick Beverley, who was a very important defender for them. I don't know that we have any real reason to believe Ant is a good defender in the regular season. He locked in and defended hard in a playoff series for a few games. I don't know that when the load he's going to have in the season, that he's a good defender. Maybe Towns is better at the 4. I think that that's a good case for it in a different sort of role. But to me, I don't see a top 5 defense in here with the players they have. When you look at the different Gobert teams through the years, and I've done that because you have to decide about Gobert for Defensive Player of the Year. So I care about the award. To me, the guys around him are more 10th or 12th defense than they are guaranteed top 5 defense. So I think what they've done with this team has super raised the floor, but the ceiling is not there. Like the similarity score teams, it's all 48 to 50 win teams, which is squarely in the middle of my win range and right at the number we're at. So I don't need to play it, but I think if the picture you've painted of what you think the Timberwolves are, I think means you should be betting the over. If you like the defense as much as you say and the players you like, I think you're an overplay.
No, because that's the thing is, like, these guys are based off of evaluation, and I'm not so confident in this evaluation as to make a play on it. Like that's about it. It's
okay.
Like, so I think a couple of these examples, the defense was really good until midseason. It objectively was very good. They were a top 10 defense until midseason. We've talked about the rules changes, but they actually got hit worse because what happened was before the All-Star break, the players went to Finch and were like, we need to be able to switch in a playoff series. You need to let us get some switch reps. And Finch is like, okay, let's try it. And they sucked at it. Patrick Beverley sucked at it. And they were so bad that it nuked their defensive rating. And when they went back to their base scheme after the All-Star break to try and make sure they made the playoffs, they were fine again. Like, it's basically just a scheme differential. And you say, look, well, they could be better at switch this year. No, they have Rudy Gobert. No. Will they be better than the Jazz when they switch? Yeah, because if you put Rudy in the corner, I trust their guys to stay in front of dudes more than I trust the Jazz guys. Like, there's just a lot of reasons for that. Donovan was so bad. Mike was so bad. Royce was honestly very bad last year, even though Royce O'Neal's a good defender. Like, Royce O'Neal might be a better defender right now than anybody on the Wolves roster, but he struggled last year. It's about context, right? Offensively, Wolves were second in 3-point rate. This is a lot of it is like, much like it was with your Chicago Bulls. How good do you think the coach is? And
I was going to ask that. Like, how would you take right now? And it depends on the roster. Would you rather have Chris Finch or Quinn Snyder as your coach?
Oh God, that's tough.
It's interesting, right? Because Quinn is a good rep. Like, Quinn is a good coach, and to me, that's why I would only play an over here. I can't play an under because of Chris Finch. I really like Chris Finch, and you really like him even more than I do, I think. And if you like him to maximize the offense and get the threes up and increase the floor of the defense, all the things a good coach does, then I think that really has to make you optimistic about this team.
Two more things real quick. The Wolves were -3 in Pythagorean differential. We talked a lot about that. Teams that actually underperformed, that should have been better than they did, that underperformed in terms of their actual record, they actually tend to go under the next season. 17, 12, and 1 to the under with a -3 or less in Pythagorean differential. The Wolves should have been better last year, but teams that should have been better last year tend to go under the following season because the line over adjusts for it.